Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Breaking Bulletin, your go-to channel for the latest insights on global events that matter to you. If you are new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Today, we are diving into a story that is sending ripples through the Canadian seafood industry, China's decision to impose tariffs on Canadian seafood, and how it is adding even more uncertainty to an industry already feeling the heat from United States President Donald Trump's trade policies. What do you think about trade wars affecting everyday industries like seafood? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below as we unpack this together. Let us start with the big picture. On March 20th, 2025, China is set to slap a 25% tariff on a wide range of Canadian seafood products, including lobster, snow crab, and shrimp, according to a report from the Globe and Mail published on March 10th, 2025. This move comes as a retaliation to Canada's own trade actions last fall, when the Canadian government imposed a 100% surtax on Chinese-made electric vehicles and a 25% tariff on Chinese steel and aluminum. China's response is not just a random jab. It is a calculated strike targeting Atlantic Canada's fish and seafood sector, which relies heavily on exports to keep its boats afloat and its communities thriving. Why does this matter so much? Well, China is Canada's second largest market for fish and seafood exports, right behind the United States, with a whopping $1.3 billion worth of products shipped there in 2024, as reported by the federal government via the Globe and Mail. In 2023 alone, Canada sent $569 million worth of lobster, $300 million worth of crab, and $262 million worth of shrimp to China, making up 78% of all seafood exports to that country. These numbers show just how critical this market is to Canadian fishermen, processors, and shippers, especially in places like Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island. Now, imagine you are a fisherman in Atlantic Canada, hauling in lobster traps day after day. These tariffs mean the price of your catch could take a hit, and that uncertainty trickles down to everyone involved, from the processors on the shore to the truck drivers delivering the goods. Chris Vascoto, the executive director of the Nova Scotia Seafood Alliance, called China's move a very strategic hit on the region's seafood sector in an interview with the Globe and Mail on March 10, 2025. He represents 135 shore-based processors and shippers, and he predicts that price volatility will shake up the entire supply chain, right down to the harvesters themselves. How do you think this will affect the families who depend on this industry? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear from you. But wait, there is more to this story. Just when Canadian seafood producers thought they could catch a break, they are also facing pressure from the United States, where President Donald Trump has stirred the pot with his own tariff threats. According to CTV News on March 10, 2025, the Trump administration imposed a 25% tariff on nearly all Canadian imports, including seafood, on March 4, 2025, only to pause it until April 2nd after days of market chaos. That pause might sound like good news, but it is really just a temporary breather, leaving the industry dangling in limbo as they wait to see what happens next. Here is the kicker. The United States and Canada have a deeply connected seafood supply chain. Nat Richard, executive director of the Lobster Processors Association in Moncton, New Brunswick, told the Globe and Mail on March 10, 2025, that much of the lobster caught in Maine, which accounts for about 85% of the United States harvest, gets processed in Canadian plants. A tariff on Canadian seafood could disrupt that flow, raising costs and potentially squeezing demand in the United States, Canada's biggest market. What do you think? Should countries work together more on trade, or is it every nation for itself? Share your take below and let us keep this conversation going. This double whammy of tariffs from China and the United States is like a storm hitting from both sides. Vascoto warned that these costs will have to be absorbed somewhere along the line if the industry wants to keep moving product, according to his interview with Global News on March 10, 2025. He said we can expect a fairly volatile season ahead, and that uncertainty is already rattling folks in the Maritimes who have been fishing these waters for generations. How would you feel if your livelihood was caught in the crosshairs of international trade disputes? Let me know in the comments. I am all ears. Let us not forget why China is doing this in the first place. According to Reuters on March 8, 2025, China's tariffs are a direct response to Canada's levies on Chinese electric vehicles, steel, and aluminum, which were announced last fall. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said back in August that those measures were meant to counter China's state-directed policy of overcapacity, following the lead of the United States and the European Union. But as Chris Vascoto pointed out to Global News, trade actions have reactions, and now Canada's seafood industry is paying the price for that domino effect. So, who is really going to feel the sting of these tariffs? Let us zoom in on the people at the heart of this industry. For companies shipping live lobsters to China, this is a major blow because China is one of the biggest markets for live lobster, rivaling even the United States, according to Nat Richard in his comments to CBC News on March 10, 2025. He said that while frozen lobster exports to China only made up 3% of their total in 2024, the live lobster trade is a different story, and losing access to that market could hit hard. On the flip side, companies dealing in frozen lobster and crab might not feel it as much, at least not right away. Richard, who represents 25 processors in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island, told the Globe and Mail on March 10, 2025, that China is just a small slice of the frozen lobster market overall. But he added a big caveat. For some individual plants that do a lot of business with China, this tariff is going to shake things up. What do you think? Will these companies find new markets, or are they stuck between a rock and a hard place? Hit that like button if you are rooting for them, and share your ideas in the comments. Then there is the ripple effect down the supply chain. Stuart Lamont, managing director of Tangier Lobster Company in Nova Scotia, told CBC News on March 10, 2025, that the 25% tariff from China piles on top of an existing 7% tariff and a 9% value-added tax already imposed by China. His company ships live lobster to 13 countries and has worked for 40 years to diversify its markets, but he admitted that this latest move still stings, especially coming on the heels of Trump's tariff threats. How do you think small businesses like his can bounce back from this? I would love to hear your feedback. Drop it below and subscribe if you want more stories like this. For the fishermen themselves, this is personal. Imagine spending hours on the water, pulling up traps in the cold Atlantic wind, only to find out that the price you get for your catch might drop because of decisions made halfway around the world. Chris Vascoto told CTV News on March 10, 2025, that the price volatility is going to affect everyone right down to the harvester. These are not just numbers. These are livelihoods, families, and communities on the line. What would you do if you were in their boots? Let us keep this discussion alive in the comments section. Let us pull back for a moment and look at the bigger picture. This is not just about seafood, it is about how trade wars are reshaping the world we live in. China's decision to hit Canada with these tariffs is part of a broader tit-for-tat that started when Canada aligned itself with the United States and the European Union against China's trade practices, as noted by Reuters on March 8, 2025. Analyst Dan Wong from Eurasia Group told Reuters that the timing of China's move might be a warning shot to remind Canada of the cost of siding too closely with American trade policy. Meanwhile, Trump's tariffs are adding fuel to the fire. His administration's decision to impose 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports on March 4, 2025, only to delay them after market chaos shows just how unpredictable this game can get. According to the Canadian press on March 10, 2025, Trump has even hinted that tariffs could climb higher if Canada or China retaliate further. As reported by CNBC on January 31, 2025, what do you think? Does this back and forth help anyone in the end? Or is it just a lose-lose situation? Hit that share button if you think more people need to weigh in on this. Here is something to chew on. Trade wars do not just affect the big players, they hit consumers too. Economists told CNBC on January 31, 2025, that a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico could cut United States households' after-tax income by $930 in 2026, almost 1%. That means higher prices for everything from lobster dinners to cars, since tariffs on steel and other goods ripple through the economy. How do you feel about paying more at the grocery store because of all this? Let me know in the comments, and do not forget to like this video if you are enjoying the breakdown so far. And it is not just about money, it is about jobs too. While Trump claims tariffs will boost American industry, economists like Mary Lovely from the Peterson Institute told CNBC that the job creation benefits are vastly overstated. In fact, tariffs could destroy jobs in industries that rely on imported goods, like the seafood processors who shuttle lobster between Maine and Canada. What is your take? Are tariffs worth the risk, or are they just shaking things up for no good reason? I am curious to hear your perspective, so drop it below and subscribe for more deep dives like this. So, can the Canadian seafood industry ride out this storm? That is the million-dollar question. Some companies, like Stuart Lamont's Tangier Lobster Company, have spent decades diversifying their markets, shipping to 13 countries and avoiding heavy reliance on the United States or China, as he told CBC News on March 10, 2025. Lamont said his company only sends about 15% of its product to China, so they are not as exposed as others might be. But he still called the tariffs substantial and admitted they come at a tough time, with the United States trade war already looming large. Others might not be so lucky. Nat Richard told CBC News on March 10, 2025, that live lobster sellers are going to take a bigger hit than those dealing in frozen products, since China is such a key market for live exports. He said the industry is a little bit shaken, and that uncertainty makes it hard to plan for the season ahead. What do you think? Can these businesses pivot fast enough to find new buyers, or are they in for a rough ride? Share your predictions in the comments and hit that like button if you are rooting for their comeback. One thing is clear, the pressure is on to adapt. Chris Voscoto told the Canadian press on March 10, 2025, that somehow these tariff costs will have to be absorbed to keep product moving. That could mean lower profits for processors, lower prices for fishermen, or higher prices for consumers, maybe all three. How would you handle that balancing act if you were calling the shots? I would love to get your feedback. Drop it below and subscribe to Breaking Bulletin for more stories that make you think. There is also a call for help from the government. Even Pei, an agriculture analyst at Trivium China, told Reuters on March 8, 2025, that she hopes Canada's leadership change might open the door to better trade talks with China. Similar to how Australia reset relations after a new prime minister took over in 2023, could financial support or new trade deals save the day? What do you think Canada's next move should be? Let us keep this conversation going. Share your ideas in the comments and hit that share button to spread the word. Alright, folks, we have covered a lot of ground today on Breaking Bulletin. China's 25% tariffs on Canadian seafood set to kick in on March 20, 2025 are shaking up an industry already on edge from Trump's trade threats, as detailed by sources like The Globe and Mail, CTV News, and Reuters. From fishermen to processors to consumers, everyone is feeling the heat, and the road ahead looks pretty choppy. What stood out to you the most from this story? Drop your favorite takeaway in the comments. I cannot wait to read them. This is why we do what we do here at Breaking Bulletin, to break down the big stories that affect real people and spark conversations that matter. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe if you have not already. We have got plenty more coming your way. How do you see this playing out for Canada's seafood industry in the next few months? Let me know your predictions below, and let us keep the discussion alive. Before we go, a quick shout out to the hardworking folks in Atlantic Canada who keep this industry going, rain or shine or tariffs or no tariffs. Their resilience is what keeps this story worth telling. Thanks for tuning in. Everyone stay curious, stay engaged, and I will see you in the next one. What other topics do you want us to tackle next? Tell me in the comments, and let us make Breaking Bulletin your channel for the stories that shape our world.